everybody. Welcome to another episode of Across the Pitch. My name is Mike Barrera. I am joined by my co-host, Dave Miller, as always. Dave, how
Yup.
you doing
I'm doing well. Obviously, the Union are literally one game away from the MLS Open Cup final. They host the Eastern Conference final against NYCFC on Sunday afternoon. It's going to be a huge game, and obviously, I can't wait to obviously watch it. I'll be doing player ratings for the game. I believe you might be at the game, Mike.
Yes, I put my application in for the press box, so we typically don't know until 24 hours before the kickoff. So I should know late Friday, if not early Saturday afternoon,
Yeah.
which I'm excited about. Of course, it kind of puts you on the fence, like, am I going to get it? But I've gotten every single game I've applied for, so I don't see why not. But if you're not a member of the media or the press or photography, whatever it is, tickets are going to be very hard to come by right now, Dave, because the show has sold out.
Yeah, it's sold out.
I think the only thing left might be standing room, if that, and if you're going to have to buy a ticket off StubHub or some other, selling outlet, it might be a pretty penny. I think one of my neighbors said that she got $80 a ticket right now, so it's gonna be a little pricey.
That's not bad at all, man.
I mean, it's a memory that will last a lifetime. It's Eastern Conference final. So let's I guess back up a little bit. We've had time to have this settle down. We were all hoping that last night's match would go according to plan. And what I mean by last night's match, for everybody who doesn't know, NYCFC traveled to Foxborough and they faced New England Revolution in the Eastern Conference semis. I don't know. Did you watch the game at all, Dave?
I was
or
working.
follow it all? Okay, you're working. So I didn't watch it. I was following on my phone. So essentially, NYCFC scored, I think, within the first couple minutes.
Yeah.
The Revs countered right away, tied it up. The entire game went scoreless until the very final portion of the extra time, the second half of extra time. NYCFC scores. Everybody's, fucking going crazy. Oh my God, we're going to host the game. And then, as if all the planets lined up together, Castellanos got a red card for NYCFC, which means he's no longer, he's not, so everything's fallen into place. And then suddenly, I think it was Buchanan got the second goal for the Revolution, which tied it up. Goes in the penalty kicks. The goalkeeper of the year, according to the MLS, Matt Turner, did not save a single shot. And thankfully, Johnson, the NYCFC goalie, did, I believe, save one. At least they, New England Revolution missed one. And they moved on to the next round, which is huge for us. So, Dave, now that I've refreshed everybody's memory, you're in Chester, Sunday at 3 p.m. NYCFC comes to you on tired legs without Castellanos. What's your vibe right now?
I mean, obviously, as a fan, you got to feel very confident. I mean,
Yep.
Why wouldn't you be? I mean, their best players out through suspension. They're coming off 3 days of rest after playing 120 minutes. Obviously, the Union have had a similar schedule in their playoff run so far. But I mean, listen, there is no reason not to feel at least some form of confidence. That I think nerves will sort of begin to creep in and start to take over as the game nears. Because I don't play Debbie Downer here, but don't forget that NYCFC marched into Philly earlier in the year and won 2-0. I know Jose Martinez got sent off, but at that point already, they were in control of the game. They were the better team before the red card, and sort of Jose's red card just completely killed the Union off. I think it was 1-0 to NYCFC as well before the red card. So I mean,
that's correct, yes.
They're a very tough opposition. They're a good side. And listen, you don't get to the Eastern Conference finals or this far in the playoffs without being a very good side. I mean, it's going to be a tough game. I think you have to feel some form of confidence when their best player and top goal scorers out injured. But again, I think it's going to be a mixture of It's going to be a mixture of nerves and sort of the unknown, expecting the unknown, and then a bit of confidence as well. And then you're in your home patch where you haven't lost in some time.
Yeah.
And coming off again, another iconic moment of winning in a penalty shootout. I mean, the Union have sort of done it in two most dramatic ways so far. So hopefully they can get it done in 90 minutes this time, do it comfortably. If it's 1-0, an early goal, win 1-0 or win 2-1, or whatever, if they can just do it comfortably, I think most Union fans will take that.
Yeah, there's really a lot to unpack here. I mean, Dave and I said we're going to do like a 25-minute show, but I feel like you can talk even more about that, about what we're about to see. Look at the odds right now. Philadelphia Union are plus 130 on FanDuel. NYCFC are plus 185. So the books have it a relatively close matchup, which I think is fair. again, I'm going to go back to what you said earlier, Dave. The first matchup, we get the red card. We go down 1-0. We end up losing that game as a result, being down a man. Second
Yeah,
game, right after I think one of the Club America losses, we came back to Philly, to Chester. You played NYCFC. That was Ali Bedoya's header with the off the right foot of Kai Wagner. And
yeah,
I told you that game after that match. I said that first half got very lucky. I thought the Union got lucky to escape 1-0 with a win. I thought they could have drew that match. And then we go up to NYCFC on decision day. We pull out a draw 1-1.
yeah,
Another match we cannot hold a lead, which was again something that we were preaching all of the back half of the season. They have to hold a lead on the road. They didn't. So you have those 3 matches as a sample size. Now in terms of who you'd rather play, I know this is, I guess hindsight now is 2020 here. A lot of people were actually rooting for the Revs to play them, to travel there. Do you think that this is the better matchup for these two teams? Or for Philly, rather?
Listen, the Union are at home. They've got a home game.
Mm-hmm.
They've been notoriously terrible on the road all season.
Yep.
They didn't beat the Revs once. I think they lost every single matchup against the Revs this season, and the Revs knocked them out the playoffs last year.
They drew the first game that I was at 1-1. There was a Casper Shabilko tie, but that was at home. Yeah.
Okay, then let me just put it out there. They haven't won against the Revs since the last game of last season. Mm-hmm. The Revs knocked them out the playoffs last season as well. I wouldn't have wanted to go to the Revs off the back of even if it was a penalty shootout win against NYCFC, because that place had been buzzing. They would have all been sky high of confidence. Mm-hmm. And again, they know that, okay, we've beaten the Union. We've comfortably dealt with the Union this year.
Even though we were short-handed, but you're right. They have dealt with us, yeah.
Short-handed, but I mean, again, I just don't see the logic behind playing the best team. Obviously, the whole point of you got to be the best, you got to beat the best. I understand that, but if you have the opportunity to get an easier tie and easier road to the final, you would snap anyone's hand off for it. I believe you'd snap anyone's hand off for it. So that's sort of my logic towards this.
I agree. I do think that we matched up well with the Revs because we did keep it close with them with our B squad essentially.
Yeah.
But you're right. I don't want to travel away from home. When you come into Chester, it is an environment unlike any other. As I mentioned to you already, Dave, personally and on the show, as I've been posting on Twitter, the atmosphere in Super Park right now is incredible. And I wasn't at the semifinal game. I was at the quarterfinal game, but still it was electric the entire time. So I know that coming here, we have that home field advantage. The second, now, I guess the Philly fan in me is creeping in a bit, though, because I have a bad memory, Dave, that I'm going to share with you. So if you go back, because you're wearing an Eagles hat, and it reminded me of that, too. So if you're an Eagles fan from the early 2000s, you remember the Tampa Bay Buccaneer game when the Bucs came here with, oh, we're going to crush them. We're going to beat them. They don't play well in cold weather. It's the Eastern Conference Finals. We're going to go Super Bowl, yada, yada, yada. We end up losing. This has that feel to it, which I hate to say, but it does. I don't want this to be a letdown game where you have this tired opponent missing their best player, come into Philly and win. My question to you based off that comment and story is, do you feel like this team has a letdown in them, or do you think are you confident enough in them to use their veteran leadership to push forward?
I'm confident that they can use their leadership and the past experiences to push them forward. I mean, if anything was good, if there was going to ever be like a Eagles Bucks moment, I think it was 2001, 2002, would have been last year.
Okay,
would have been last year, and I think they've had that moment. I think they had that moment against the Revs, where I mean, like if they beat the Revs, they probably do make it to the MLS Open Cup final, and they might even win it. And again, they sort of got brought back down to earth, and I think they've learned from these experiences this year, and they've pushed on. Because listen, I think most people would have said that they would have beaten the Red Bulls comfortably, or at least they would have done a good job. It took until the last kick of extra time to do so. They remained focused. They stayed. Do you know what I mean? They stayed competitive throughout that game. And again, against Nashville, I think everyone knew that was going to be a tough game. And if they were going to crumble, they could have done against Nashville. They remained focused. They remained disciplined. They didn't collapse after conceding the first goal. And again, they won it on penalties. So again, I think the confidence would be high, but I think a lot of the team leaders like Andy Bedoya, Andre Blake, even Jack Elliott, Jaco Glasnes, Jose Martinez, Kasper Schmeichel, they'll have the memories of last year and how disappointing they were to have put all that hard work into the regular season just to have it collapse at the first moment. I think they'll use that experience of last year and to push past this moment and hopefully spur them on into hopefully a massive moment in the MLS Open Cup final if they can make it, obviously.
I think that's a fair point. I think when you heard Ali Bedoya's pregame speech in the huddle before the Red Bulls game, he said, again, I said this last week, we're not going to have what happened last year happen again.
Yeah.
They did whatever they had to win. The second pregame huddle speech, he says, no, by any means necessary, you have to win this game. You're not going to lose at home. They do it again. And I think you're right. I think you summed it perfectly, and I think you put what many people's fears are to rest. Because listen, I know you're a relatively new Philly fan, Dave. We have a constant reminder in the back of our head that we're not meant to be happy. We're not we're not meant to have these moments. So I think people don't want to say it, but I'm here to say, we have our concerns. And I think you summed up perfectly. Again, like I said, Bedoya, Curtin, Andre Blake, these guys have been through the worst of this team's history. Now's their moment, and the opportunity is golden. I mean, this is absolutely the best opportunity you have. And on the flip side, in the Western Conference, you have Portland facing the Real Salt Lake. If Portland wins, we go to Portland. If Real Salt Lake wins, they come to Chester. If we were to advance, a little bit far ahead now, but
and obviously we'll know about that result before the Union even plays their game, obviously, because that game's been played on Saturday night.
Okay, there you go.
It's a big one back then. I think. Listen, Salt Lake are the 7th seeded team in the Western Conference. Sorry,
yeah,
the 7th seeded team, and they might end up making the final. So again, that shows just how wide open the MLS is and how competitive the actual league is. I mean, obviously, and again, they snuck in by the skin of their teeth on goal difference. So, I mean, talk about making the most of your opportunity and pushing on. But I think, did the Revs get to the final last year?
I thought so. I thought the Revs lost to no, Columbus made it the final.
Columbus
won the whole thing. The Revs made the Eastern Conference final, if I remember correctly.
Well, that's it. They made the Eastern Conference final, but look at just put it into context. They literally snuck. Again, they're another team that snuck in on the skin of their teeth. They only qualified because of the extended MLS playoff thing, when they ended up putting 10 teams in from each conference. 10 teams in from the was it the play-in, wasn't it, the buy-in, or whatever it was, to make up the 8 teams. So they came in with the skin of their teeth. So I think, again, it's another good example of showing what late season form can do for teams and how they can build on confidence, and how backdooring the playoffs can sometimes be a good thing for teams, and how, again, it just shows how this sport is literally one of the most unpredictable sports in the world, that you can probably be the lowest ranked seed in your bracket and somehow make it to the finals.
Yeah.
The Revs showed it last year, backdooring it, and again, the Salt Lake have done this year, and they've shown that they're no pushovers, they're no mugs.
Yeah.
Again,
go ahead. Finish up your thought.
As I'm saying, obviously they've had to play their first 2 playoff games on the road.
Yeah.
And again, it's gonna be no difference. Obviously, their incredible shithouse display against Seattle Sounders in the first game was something to be admired and applauded. But
yeah, you read my mind with my next point. They parked the bus to perfection in that game. I know Jose, the guy we had on a few weeks ago, a fellow Union fan who I actually met. Jose, if you're listening, thank you for meeting me. It was great to finally get to know you in person, compared to Twitter. Everybody talks on Twitter. We never got to get to meet anybody. But he said it perfectly. He's like, they just parked the bus and it worked to their favor, and they end up winning in penalty kicks. I mean, is penalty kicks the best way to decide an outcome for a game? No, but that's what the system we have in place, and that is what it is. But now, going back to NYCFC and the match we have at hand, one big news is that Olivier Mbaizo is back. He was training again. I was for Powell. I wanted to see Powell because I liked what I saw him against the Red Bull match. I like what we've seen of him over the years. He did have that moment against Nashville for the goal, and I know Blake was kind of a bit off his line, out of a position a bit as well. Yeah. How are you feeling, Powell and Mbaizo, between the two guys for this next match?
I think it depends how conservative Jim wants to be. I mean, if Jim wants to, keep things tight, keep things rigid and on edge, but keep defending, be solid defensively, I think he starts Powell. But I mean, going off the last game, if he wants to, go at the NYCFC, try and put him on the back ropes early, try and get an early goal or 2, and then sit back, I'd probably go Mbaizo because he offers that better threat on the right hand side.
I agree.
And this might be okay, he was awful in terms of his finishing, but I would start Sergio Santos. purely because I know he didn't score, but just look at how well the team was. Just look at how well the team attacked when he came on the pitch in comparison to before. Didn't
Yeah.
score, but he stretched the game. He created chances. Should he take a couple of them? Probably, but he made a difference in that game. Okay, didn't score, but he made a positive difference, and was probably the reason why the Union weren't probably the reason why the Union weren't as on the back ropes or as nervy in extra time and late on in the second half as perhaps they were against the Red Bulls, where the Red Bulls were in which somewhat dominant in small spells during that game. I think again, I was going to make this point. Wasn't going to say now, but obviously might as well. I think
Yeah.
Sergio Santos would be a better striker with a goal scorer alongside him. You know, like a Castellanos, a Mukhtar, a player like that. I think he would be absolutely perfect because
Yeah.
Santos would just cause absolute mayhem. He'd create chances, create opportunities. He'd use his pace. And again, if he has 6 chances and doesn't score, he's going to put one on the plate for a strike for the other guy to score. And
That's right.
Casper, as much as I love him, he's shown that he can't always do that consistently. He's not a 20-goal season striker, as we've seen
Yeah.
with plenty of MLS strikers. Do you know what I mean? Like Castellanos, Mukhtar, Ola Camara. Do you know what I mean? Those sort of players. Even Raul Ruiz Diaz. What's his name?
Rui Diaz from
Yeah,
Seattle.
Ruiz Diaz. Ruiz
Yeah.
Diaz, sorry. I'm trying to think of his name now. Joseph Martinez from
Oh
Atlanta
yeah.
as
From
well.
yes. My bad.
Historically, a very good striker at this level. Do you know what I mean? And I think if you paired up Santos with anyone like them, Santos, they would score 25 goals a year in the Union team, the way that Santos stretches things and causes havoc for other teams because it would give them one-on-one matchups because the defenders would be trying to focus on Santos's pace, or they'd be so focused on Martinez or a Rui Diaz or your star striker that Santos can then go off and do his own thing and isolate defenders on his own and carry on stretching things. I think he would really benefit with a natural goal scorer that will score 20 goals and will prove to be a distraction because when Santos is on the pitch with, say, Kasper, full focus is on him because they know that Kasper's just, if they just put one man on Kasper's going to struggle, if you know what I mean. So, I mean, it's one of those things, okay, he should have scored. It was unfortunate with the penalty, but again, I think I'd start him because he gives the Union an advantage in terms of his pace and offers something different to what I used to.
I think I agree with you 100%. I think we've discussed this time and time again too. Sergio is your best forward when healthy. Whether he's a great finisher or not, I would put Casper finishing over Sergio
Yeah, absolutely.
over overall. But I mean, I know, granted, I know Casper's missed his fair share of easy shots, but
Yeah.
I know Casper has a better strike at the end of the day. But I do think you're right that I would like to see more of Sergio. Now, again, we can kind of view it like this: does Jim break away from the Christmas tree and go back to the diamond with 2 up top? No, I don't think he does. I think he's ridden this Christmas tree far enough. He's not going to break off of it now.
Yeah.
Then my question to you is this: because how poorly Casper is playing, which I don't think anyone can argue, he's not really playing well right now. He's
No.
not getting great shots at
He's
net.
struggling, yeah.
He's struggling. Sergio, as you said, even though he's missed some opportunities, has still been more dangerous. Do you put him at the top of the Christmas tree with Miro and Gazdag behind him, or do you find a way to pair them in a different formation?
Um, I think maybe you try and find a way to pair them in a different formation, maybe. So I think Montero was that great against Nashville. I think he was sort of a bit isolated at times and struggled to really take control of the ball, to take control of the game. So I think maybe if you can do the Christmas tree with Santos in behind Shabirka, I think that could potentially work again. It adds a bit of pace and like playing off Kasper. So again, he's got quicker options. It might open up more space for Kasper to play on the turn and do his thing a bit more, which again could work. So, I mean, when you've got 2 slow ball playing players, it doesn't take any focus away from the defenders because they're like, well, at the midfielder still that they're not going to beat us at pace, not going to beat us at strength.
Right.
Whereas Sergio has exactly both of those qualities where if you've got him behind Kasper and you're sort of like, oh shit, Kasper lays one off to him and he's 1-on-1 the defender, you're like, oh shit, I've got to try and defend Sergio here and try and deal with him. And do you know what I mean? So again, it might take away it might free Kasper from the shackles of having 2 defenders pinned up against him for 90 minutes and and it could allow Gazdag to perhaps have more space in the game to create stuff and get the ball out wide and create more opportunities for himself.
Yeah, I mean that's a great point, and I think at this moment in time, Even wait, actually, before I get to my next point, how about Corey Burke? Do you think? I mean, I feel like Corey has come in on his substitutions and made something happen. Do you
Um,
think we see more of Corey, or do you think we see less? I personally don't think he should start. I think he should be a 20-minute kind of guy at towards the end of the match, in
I
case we
th-
go into extras. I mean, what
yeah,
what have you thought about Corey so far?
I think at this stage in the season, it's again he's a player who's been injured quite often, and he's missed a lot of time due to injury. As opposed to
Yeah.
I know we know Sergio has an on-off injury issue, but again he's been playing minutes before he played minutes before the injuries, come back in and played minutes afterwards. Whereas Corey was out for like 2 months, and
Hmm.
he's only come back and he's probably played 100 minutes since his return. So again, I think as you said, he's probably a striker that you'd bring on towards the end of a game to head into
Yeah.
extra time and try and create something from there. Again, I just wouldn't. I don't think he's ready to start. If this was
No.
perhaps in the middle of the league season, you might might start him for 45 minutes.
Or
But
if it
again,
was
it's
against the Chicago Fire, maybe you'd
yeah,
start him.
or FC Cincinnati. But
Yeah,
this is the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't think it's the right time to chuck a player
I
like
agree.
Corey Burke, who's just like edging back from injury in. So
So
that's
we're
sort of
not
my opinions on things.
So we're not going to see Davo then starting. Okay, that's good. Um, no, I think all are valid points. And kind of going back to Mbaiza real quick. As much as I love Powell, and I do love Powell, and I think every now and then he does get a good shot on net. Mbaiza does allow the offense to be more dangerous.
Yeah,
With him on the pitch, maybe that allows Casper to kind of get more space or to get better crosses compared to what Powell can offer on the right side. I mean, we really haven't seen what Casper can do in these particular playoffs because of Powell being on the right side.
yeah,
I mean, it's only one player, sure, but it still impacts everybody around him the way because of the system that's in place. Um, so I'm interested. I think knowing Jim and how he's been very consistent with how he's done things over the years, I don't see Sergio starting. I see him being that difference maker
yeah.
off the bench, causing havoc once the New York legs are a little bit more tired, probably around
Yeah.
the 65th minute or so,
It
is
works.
what I'm seeing.
And it stretches the game as well. And again, that sort of stage of the game where the Union have proven over this season and in extra time in the last two games during extra time, they are a very fit team. They
Yep.
can they can they can deal with games when they get stretched. They can deal with the length like long time like lengthy periods of games. So I mean, again, having Sergio in there to stretch the game, stretch
Hmm.
NYCFC a bit, and give them more space to work in the midfield. I think that would probably help them a lot. I know obviously a lot of people weren't happy with Leon Flack's performance against Nashville.
Yeah, I mean, I can see why, but Leon is Leon. I mean, at the end of the day, he is going to be your hustle guy. He is going to be a guy you need in a playoff match.
Yeah,
Someone who is going to be defensively as aggressive as possible. Yes, is he very poor offensively? Absolutely. Does he offer you zero opportunity to be creative when he has the ball? Absolutely. But at this point, he's gotten you to this part of the year. I mean, whether you want to admit it or not, and you can say this about Casper, you can say this about anybody else on the squad. These are the players who have gotten you to this point. You cannot bench Leon now because of
no,
one bad moment. I mean, that's just ridiculous. And that's not Jim's MO either. Jim rides Casper until he, finally breaks through. You have to do the same thing with Leon. You have to let him go. And listen, Flock had the assist to Casper against NYCFC just a couple weeks ago.
yeah,
So he's shown he can play with them. I think Leon deserves to remain, and I think it's ridiculous that people are giving him too much of grief.
yeah,
Although I do love Jack McGlynn, and Jack McGlynn has ice in his veins apparently with with that penalty. I
yeah.
think I've watched his penalty kick more than anybody else's.
Like I don't know. I think this sort of game probably isn't right for McGlynn in terms of it's going to be a physical matchup.
It is.
Again, I think Leon's having I think he's going to have to deal with Medina or Rodriguez. So again, that's going to be a tough matchup. And I don't think obviously Jack's been good in the games he's played this year. But again, he's either started in games where the Union have been short-handed, or he's played against Chicago Fire, FC Cincinnati, and those sort of games. So again, this is a completely different ballpark, different competition for him. And I think again, Leon would probably be more suitable to provide that defensive cover. Because again, we can all sit there and go, "Oh, we need to score plenty of goals and things like that." But that's the Union haven't done that in
That's
these
not
two
their
playoff
no.
games. It's
Right.
not their MO, but they haven't done it in these two playoff games. Even when McGlynn's been on the pitch, they haven't exactly burst the door open and scored plenty of goals or created loads of chances.
Nor
So
has
again, I
he.
think
Yeah, go ahead.
sorry,
No, no, no.
he's
Go ahead.
So again, I think it's going to be they're going to have to keep it tight. And again, Jim said after that playoff win against in the win last week, we're a defending first team.
Yep.
So I think it just screams that Leon would have to sit in there and it gives Kai more freedom to attack the left hand side too. So I think it'd be stupid to drop Leon Flack in a game where there's going to be difficult players all over the pitch to have to deal with.
Yeah, and the reality is that even if Castellanos is out, NYCFC is still a dangerous squad. You need strong defensive presence throughout the match. So Leon will play, and it's not like Jack has been overly phenomenal either. He's been fine. He's been solid. He's obviously had the PK, but Leon right now is a better choice. But I know, again, we don't want to make this too long of an episode, especially because our other members of our website have to log on to get their show started in about 15 minutes. So, Dave, we're going to wrap it up with some predictions here. Prediction, goal scorer, and anything else you can possibly tell me with this game.
Union 7-0. No, joking. I'm going to go 2-1.
Listen, wait, you want me to show you what the betting line is for 7-0? Because I'll tell you right now, I might put $5 down on that.
That's going to be a plus like 200, surely. No, 2,000, sorry.
If the correct score is 7-0, it would pay out plus 25,000.
Ooh.
So let's say $2 down, you get $500.
Yeah.
Dream big, Dave.
As I said, I'll probably go 2-1 or 2-1 or 2-0. I think Sergio will make up for the demons of the last game. I think Sergio will score. And do you know what? Screw it. I know we've been giving you guys a lot of love. I think Jack Elliott.
Yes. He almost had one. He almost had one the other day.
Yeah.
The ball went a little bit over him, but okay. So we have Elliott 2-1, and you have Sergio. I think it's gonna be a 1-0 game. Unfortunately, I think it's just gonna be one of those nail biters that are gonna come down to the wire. I do think that because of NYCFC missing one of their best players, they may be more defensive, just trying to keep it close with us and maybe beat us, whatever. So I'm gonna go 1-0. And for the goal scorer, I'm gonna go with the guy who I've been kind of tooting his horn the last couple of weeks. I'm gonna go with Daniel Gazdag to put us into the final for the MLS Cup. Then hopefully Salt Lake will win and we come back to Chester for one more round. But anyway, we're gonna wrap it off with our sponsors, then we're gonna sign off for the night. First up, Manscaped, 20% off plus free shipping with the code AATBirds at manscaped.com. OddsJam, #1 software platform for sportsbook bandits, Arbitrage Calculator, and more. So we never lose a bet again. Sign up today .com, the AATBirds. Next, we have check out games incorporated at statementgames.com for a fun new way to fantasy sports entertainment, win gift cards and prizes, and it's free to sign up. Please sign up at statementgames.com. And then our last and newest sponsor is La Terrain Watches, LaTerrain.com. Use code AATBirds for 10% off at checkout. Brand new selection of watches. Christmas is 3.5 weeks away, so get to getting and buy something nice from them. And then lastly, we have our across the pitch gear. I have my Brewers Bucket gear as well. We have Burning Bridges, the chips and dish. We have Johnny Uleca putting out some top-notch Eagles gear as well. So check it out. It's a great gift. I've given my dad some of the gifts so far, and he's enjoyed them, and I've enjoyed them as well. And then last but not least, you follow us, Dave GFC Miller on Twitter, and me on Twitter as well. Dave, I know you've been doing the Eagles Eye on the Enemy before every single Eagles game, right? Next week, who we play next week? The Jets?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm looking out for Dave's Eye on the Enemy report before the game against the Jets, and then myself, you know me, Dave, college basketball aholic, rather, every single day. So check us out on Twitter. But until then, I'll catch you guys later next time. Doop.